Good afternoon, everybody. We've got existing shareholders and I'm sure some potential shareholders as well. I'm Kathy Hume from CHF Capital Markets. We are so excited to have both Tim Froud, CEO of Sokoman, and Stephen Stairs, CEO of Benton, who will begin the seminar with sharing some highlights from their most recent projects, the projects that they're focused on. Then together, they will talk about 3 significant land packages recently acquired, which are in their 50-50 joint venture alliance. You will learn about the rationale behind this aggressive stance and how they're going to move this forward. Throughout the presentation, you can send your questions to the Q&A button at the right of the chat button that you see at the bottom of your screen. We will sort them out at the live Q&A section, and Irina will take that one over. So at the if there are questions unanswered, we will answer them after the fact. But please focus your questions on the subject at hand, which is this new strategic alliance. Therefore, these are the questions we want to hear from you. We anticipate this webinar to take approximately 60 minutes. It will be taped and people will be able to listen to it again. You will be muted the entire time. So on the far right of your toolbar is a handout section where you can download the materials at your leisure anytime. Before we begin, just some continuous disclosure comments. From time to time, speakers will make forward-looking statements related to the projects or the company in general. So do your own due diligence and consult a broker. This is not a solicitation for financing or buying in the open market. And be advised that CHF partners and staff do own shares in both companies. So let's begin with you, Tim. A brief introduction on Moosehead and fleur-de-lis. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Kathy, and my presenter, Steve. Thank you for putting this together, and thank you to all out there in the listening audience. I hope you get something out of this presentation. So here's our latest share structure as of today, and there's been a lot of activity in our market. Clearly, we've done a recent financing, as well as a fair number of warrants have been exercised, to the point where now we have a treasury of nearly $11 million cash, and we expect that number to grow with the advancement of additional warrants in the coming months. So we're pretty well funded to take care of business as we present it. So here's our property portfolio as of today. As you can see, we've increased our land holdings substantially to now we're probably one of the largest. I won't say the largest, but because every day that seems to change. But with over 150,000 hectares through direct ownership and through our now powerful alliance with Steve and Benton Resources. We now have control of seven key projects, and we're not sure if that's the level it will stay, but stay tuned. Exciting things could be happening. So on to the Moosehead, our flagship property, and this will still be our flagship property for those that have any concerns about our recent, acquisitions as clouding our path moving forward. We will be very committed to Moosehead moving forward. In fact, the lion's share of our budget for the remainder of the year will be directed towards finishing our 50,000 meter program at Moosehead. I'll get into that in a little bit more. But it's again, a matter of it's our go-to project. It's what got us to this stage, and one that we will continue to drive forward. So we've acquired the project. Just for those that are new, I know probably a lot of you have seen these few slides before, but for those that are new, the benefit of when we acquired the project in mid to late 2018 to present, we've drilled 23,000 meters in 5 phases prior to phase 6, which is the current phase underway. There's 13,000, just over 13,000 meters completed as of May 5th in the phase 6, and another 37,000 meters remaining. We currently have 2 drills on site and 2 more planned. We expect a 3rd rig to join us in the next couple of weeks. And the 4th rig, which will be fitted out on a barge to focus on the upper levels of the main eastern trend and the footwall splay area. That will be a little bit later in the summer, as the drilling company is still in the position, in the process of acquiring the barge, and of course then it has to be fitted out. So, but that will be a very important component of this project moving forward. I guess the key takeaways so far from phase 6 has been the emergence of the footwall splay and south pond zones, where we've intersected multiple holes, multiple zones of very high grade mineralization. Some of the results you've seen in recent press releases, and some of them are highlighted below there. I won't read them all off, but they've been 2 very, very important components of our story lately, and will undoubtedly be very important to us moving forward. So this busy slide here is basically the areas that I just mentioned. The footwall splay and the upper eastern trend are there on the southwest corner of North Pond. The dark outline you see there. I won't read off all of those results, but we've had more than our fair share of really good high grade results. Some of them over very extensive widths, and of course the South Pond zone, which is down at the bottom of the screen, is basically just an emerging story in the past few months. We chased some high grade float that were in the region that we sampled last summer and fall. The stuff averaged about an ounce, and we've now had several holes drilled in this zone and confirmed basically that the float we see at surface does extend into the subsurface. And through subsequent drilling, that even a second zone is starting to emerge there, which all of this is still very, very wide open, and we're very excited about the South Pond and its potential moving forward. So these are the 5 known trends or zones, if you will, that we've come to know at Moosehead. This all started in 2018 when we inherited the project, with the blue western trend being really the only defined zone of mineralization on the project. And we've managed to, through our work over the past 2 years, basically define 4 additional zones of locally very, very high grade gold mineralization that are all still open for expansion. And we've really still, the Moosehead property itself, really we've only tested approximately 25, maybe 30% of the strike length in any detail. That's with drilling, that is, of the 8 to 9 kilometers that we have in total of the Valentine, Cape Ray shear zone that cruises through the whole province and is a very integral conduit, obviously, for gold mineralization, not just at Moosehead but elsewhere in the province. And so all these zones are open for expansion. And if I may just skip to one next slide. So basically we have a view here looking west. The previous view was looking north, or to the right side of the screen. So these are basically the zones as we know them. The takeaway on this slide is basically what's going to happen in the next few months. And I think you can see at the eastern trend, you see up on the north end, at the top end of the eastern trend, you see a barge-based program. All those all those blue lines, those are proposed holes, are step out. Some of them are infill. And so that's going to be basically the focus for the barge-based program. The lower part of the eastern trend, you see, again, a series of blue holes. And those are, again, a combination of infill and step-out holes at spacings from 15 to 25 meters. And at the South Pond zone, you see these reddish-brown colored arrows that are heading in there. And that's the program as we've laid out to expand the South Pond zone. And combined, that's over 40,000 meters worth of drilling. We're not saying we're going to drill all of these holes, clearly, but obviously, things will be results driven. And so this will be a large part of of the next 6 months for us. And just quickly on Fleur-de-Lis, it's a high-grade Dalradian type orogenic target. There are 3 current deposits in Ireland and Scotland that are being advanced, and we see many similarities to the Irish setting, geological setting in the Fleur-de-Lis area. This is our claim block here, the red patch. You see all the key gold prospects that are currently active on the island, not all of them, but the key ones. And here is a smattering of gold occurrences that you see at Fleur-de-Lis. Most of these have not seen any drilling. We're about to kick off our phase 1 program in the next week or two with the collection of 750 to 1,000 sea horizon chills, and this will be collected by contractors. So again, our core Moosehead team will not be jarred from their current duties at Moosehead. And again, we're well funded to finance all this work, and we're quite confident that we'll have quite a suite of results as the summer moves forward on all of our projects. Thank you.
Your turn to give us the highlights of Benton.
Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for that update on Moosehead, Tim, and Fleur-de-Lis. It was wonderful. Obviously, Benton is a project generator, and we're blessed to partner up with Tim in Newfoundland and split the risk. These are large projects that we're going to advance, so more cost effective that way for both of us to be working on those projects. And before we get into those projects and the alliance, I'll just give you a little update on Benton itself. So Benton is a project generator, great projects, a lot of great partners behind us. Share structure, 103 million shares issued new standing, equity holdings greater than $10 million, cash of about 1.6 million hard right now. And as people seen, we recently announced a financing with Eric Sprott of $2 million. It'll be a total of 2.2 million. So we'll be well financed for any exploration we have in Newfoundland and Ontario as we move our projects forward. We got a great board with lots of experience as well, as you can see. A lot of Benton's work is focused on the Lake Superior Rift system, including Far Lake, our recently spin out of Clean Air Metals, which is advancing the Thunder Bay North project. We have the Bark and Barrel also, which is under option to Rio Tinto in the same stratigraphy. This is the geology of the area where all this activity is taking place. As you can see by this busy map, there's a lot of historical mines here, including the Shabanawan nickel mine, which has been in production for more than 50 years through Inco. The old past producing Ardeden mine, Moss Lake gold deposit. So we're kind of right smack in the middle of all this excitement. The red circles are properties that were either generated by Benton or is being advanced by Benton, such as Saginaga Lake. To the southwest is under option to Metallica Minerals, and they are making their first drill campaign in the next few months. I just talked to recently management at Rio Tinto. I don't have the full update yet, but apparently they are working on our Bark and Barrel Lake projects just to the west of Far Lake. And the far east, you can see the large block in green, which is Clean Air Metals, Thunder Bay North, and Escape Lake projects that was generated through Benton and put into Clean Air Metals. And Benton holds a large security position and a royalty on that project. And the flagship property that Benton currently is working on is called the Far Lake. It's a brand new discovery, only made 2 years ago. Since that time, we've now drilled 2 drill campaigns. The latest campaign of 9 holes, we're waiting for our final results, which we're hoping will be out maybe next week. So we'll have a good update on that. We currently have a crew of geologists and soil samplers on the property, expanding out on the structures where we find the mineralization. So here's a bit of an overview of Fire Lake itself. We believe it's a porphyry or ILCG style structurally controlled system. We have very high grades of copper, locally pods of up to about 0.8 meters of 22% copper. First phase drilling, identified very large, wide zones of low grade copper and narrow sections of high grade copper. Second drill phase was completed a couple months ago. We've submitted hundreds and hundreds of samples to the lab. So it's taken some time to get all the results, but believe that we should be in a position to put a release out very soon. It's got excellent infrastructure, logging roads, Trans-Canada Highway, sea and rail, all within proximal to the project itself. And as I mentioned, we have soil samplers currently on the ground, prospecting and mapping for further targeting of exploration drilling in the late summer, early fall for Fire Lake. So it's an exciting project. Copper is, as everybody knows, is around $4.50 a pound and higher. We believe, and the forecast for it from many banking groups is above the $5 mark. So we believe copper is going to be the metal of the future as it goes in many electric cars, etc. Just some magnetics with our current drill holes showing everything we've done so far in Fire Lake. We have large, like I say, soil geochem anomalies, which work really well for targeting. We've drilled 20 holes, as I mentioned, and we're waiting for holes, nine drill hole results in testing large IP anomalies. Some were successful, some were weakly successful, but nevertheless, it's definitely directing us, we believe, in the right direction towards where this system might have been formed from. Oh. So just a general summary and the blue sky potential in Benton. We have clean air metals with estimated ounces of palladium equivalent at a grade of 3.5 grams at 1.83 million ounces, and another inferred of 663,000 ounces. So this is quite a substantial PGE deposit, platinum group element deposit, and Clean Air Metals is currently working towards a PEA, hopefully by mid to late summer, for the announcement of that PEA. We have very high quality projects such as Bark and Barrel Lake being advanced by Rio Tinto, Saganaga being advanced by Metallica Minerals, Quadro Resources advancing our gold project in Newfoundland Staghorn, and Max Tech Ventures advancing our Red Lake project up called Panama Lake. So we continue exploration on Fire Lake, looking for our porphyry ILCG target, and we now have a joint venture in Newfoundland with Buckins Minerals, which was a 2011 discovery that was made by Buckins and Benton on an old joint venture. We've revived that project where there was some very high grade gold that's not been found in source. Boulders up to greater than 120 grams gold and 300 grams silver. And of course, our latest joint venture and strategic alliance with Sokoman Minerals, which we're very happy that we've managed to come to an agreement with Tim. We've worked well in the past together. I was actually a founder of Sokoman back in 1989, I think it was. So Sokoman's been around for a long time, and I'm happy to be a part of helping build its success again. So with that, I'll pull it over to our Newfoundland Alliance.
So can we add Tim now? And both Tim and Steve will talk about this exciting alliance that they've just forged.
Okay. Well, it's getting to be a pretty busy map, and in no small part thanks to Steve and I having a discussion a few weeks ago about well, what can we do to bolster our position here and utilize our knowledge of this province and our experiences here in the past. And so we decided to form an alliance and share the risk, share the reward thing. And so far I'm really pleased with what we've managed to accomplish in just a few weeks. We've acquired three very significant district scale, in fact, projects, including Keppenkek, which Steve will talk a bit about in a minute, and of course the two that I'll talk about, Golden Hope, which is our largest acquisition, and at the end I'll finish off by talking about the Grey River acquisition, the one we announced today. But first to the Golden Hope project. It's staked to cover two significant gold associated structures, major structures in southwest Newfoundland that are not only linked to gold deposits in that region, but as well they're part of the same fluid driving systems, if you will, that everyone's excited about in central Newfoundland. Basically, Newfoundland is just cut by these major regional structures that finally are starting to get some attention, and a few of us that obviously have probably a little greater knowledge of the province, managed to weed through the weeds, I guess, and pick up a few very very high quality projects. And the Golden Hope consists of over 3,100 claims. It's almost 786 kilometers in area. And again, two major structures were targeted here. Basically, to the north, it's a structure that we feel is the extension to the east of what hosts the Cape Ray resources that Matador Mining and Big Ridge are currently advancing a little further to the west. And to the south, the southern structure is the northeast extension of the package of rocks that hosts the past-producing Hope Brook mine, with current, and past and current resources of nearly 2 million ounces. We're quite happy to be able to just walk up to their border and stake several thousand claims with abundant geochem. There's soils, there's stream sediment samples with more than 5,000 ppb gold that have no source to them. Very little drilling outside of the main area, and so we're going to start obviously by compiling a fairly large amount of data, as well as flying an airborne survey to sharpen up some of these structurals, and a ground follow-up. It's going to be a busy summer, but in total, these things may look huge, and maybe how are they going to afford this? But this project was acquired for just a couple of $100,000 in staking fees, which is beautiful because we now control it 100%. There's no royalties. We control the expenditures, and really for less than $500,000 each, we're gonna do a lot of work on this project and hopefully get it to the drilling stage, in the not too distant future. So I think I'll pass it now over to Steve, yes, who's going to talk about the Keppenkek JV.
Okay, thanks, Tim. So this is the project actually that kind of kicked our alliance off. Tim and I both are very close with the Keats family. In fact, I'm close as in it's my uncle and my first cousin that discovered the newfound gold Keats zone. And they knew for this project, my Uncle Al actually worked on this project in the 1980s through Noranda. So he's always had a fond kind of place in his heart for this area. He believed that it was a very similar geologically to the Heats trend in rocks wise, and it also extends up from Canstar's project to the south that's under option from Altius Minerals. So it's basically the extension of the Hermitage structure to the northeast. It cuts through a wildlife reserve, and that's why Canstar really probably didn't stake up to this part of the ground. So they went in there just in one day of prospecting, discovered up to 2.5 grams gold, which is a feat in itself. And they panned gold in 2 different areas in till sampling. With that, they called me and said, we have a new discovery in an area that's seen extremely, low amount of work. And just off to the northeast of us, there was another discovery by a group of prospectors. We don't own that ground. It was optioned out to another company from the Yukon somewhere. But so we staked up to that ground as well. So there's a splay structure that also hosts gold. And again, very little work. So we feel that this Keppenkek could really, host, something very significant. In the past, some early exploration groups, Cameco Resources, again, Noranda with my uncle, they done some really early stage prospecting. They've identified quartz veins with arsenopyrite. They were there looking for base metals, so gold was not really something they were paying attention to. So that data was available. We see lots of rock samples they described as with arsenopyrite quartz and chalcopyrite. So those will be key areas to follow up on early on. And as Tim mentioned, these will be really cost-effective exploration programs. I'll personally be on these projects myself, along with my brother and probably my uncles, if they can give us some time. So we're very excited about getting started, getting the airbornes done for targeting as well. And after we picked this up, we picked up the Golden Hope. And then Tim dug up some tremendously high-grade assays around the Grey River area. Sean O'Brien, who's an ex-government geologist that knows the island extremely well, has been really, giving us some key ideas and models. And that led us to the Grey River, area, looking a lot like, other world-class deposits that Tim will speak of. So with that, I'll pass over to Tim on the Grey River. But as Tim mentioned, this will be a very exciting summer for just really early stage exploration, but the chance for finding something pretty special. Over to you, Tim.
Well, thank you, Steve. And first of all, if you think you're going to share all the glory this summer and not have me along for some of this exploration, you're sadly mistaken. So, get used to having me around. So
love it.
Anyway, Grey River. Well, it's our newest acquisition. It's just days old. The ink's not dry on the claim post yet, but it's a very interesting area. In fact, pound for pound in terms of metal in the ground in a region of Newfoundland, this would rank up there on at one of the highest, dollar value chunks of ground anywhere in the province. It's not directly on our prospect. Now, I want to clarify that if you look at the project, you'll see to the west side there's like an internal area of slightly discolored claims. That's currently where a porphyry copper moly deposit sits that was discovered 25 or 30 years ago. That was under quite aggressive exploration for some time. There's several 100 million pounds of moly and copper here, and swarming around that, and partially on our claims and partially on claims that we've optioned from third parties, are a series of high-grade intrusion-related, probably all part of this grand metalliferous, flooding that's transpired down there of locally very, very high grade gold, in the hundreds of grams. In places we get quite enriched silver, 200 to 300 grams. And as well, there's this interesting body. If you can look in and see, you'll see this east-west trending or flat-lying structure in the central part of the property and extending off to the east. That's largely a zone of quartz or silica it's been described by several different authors as several different things. Some people think it's a big quartzite that's just been metamorphosed. Some people think it's a series of huge quartz veins. But regardless, what attracted us to it was the association of gold and locally based metals around this interesting body. So, in fact, one of the highest grade showings on the project sits adjacent to this body, 225 grams of gold, and this has not been drilled. What I like about this is the package overall, including the mineralization I previously described out to the west there. All have a lot of similarities to a very interesting deposit in Alaska called Pogo. And Pogo is basically, again, a high grade, 12 to 14 or 15 gram gold deposit, a very large deposit. It's up until the end of 2019, it produced almost 4 million ounces of gold. And I think there's about 6 or 7 million ounces in resources still left there. It's also associated with, these quartz bodies or pods. The jury's out on them. But again, it's the metal association with the tungsten and things like, not the tungsten so much, but the bismuth and just so many similarities, and the host rocks as well. So, we've got a lot of work to do here. All three of our current JVs will require, a detailed compilation. They'll all get covered with airborne. And then we're going to just hit the ground running. And, there's probably a few things we can get at, prior to the airborne being finished. Obviously, some due diligence sampling and some of these higher grade showings just to get some numbers and get a look at the rocks ourselves. But, collectively, the three projects are probably going to cost, in terms of minimum of expenditures to keep them in good standing for year one, of $1 million. And, that's $500,000 each. So, again, for people that are thinking we've overextended or whatever, we currently have nearly $11 million in the bank, and all commitments to the end of this year will total probably $7 to $8 million. So, I mean, we're in good standing. We're managing our money, and we realize that money doesn't grow on trees, but still, with some good results moving forward, maybe a little higher financing down the road at some point, or further warrant exercises. I know we still have several $1 million in warrants that are sitting out there that we expect a number of those to be exercised. We're not banking on them, but we're thinking that we're going to get it. But anyway, so money is not an issue at this point. Never. It's always a dangerous thing to say it's never an issue. But in terms of our commitments for now and our ability to move, from Sokoman side, Moosehead forward and Fleur de Lis, we have sufficient funds, and so please put that worry to rest if that's why you're selling our shares today.
Thanks very much, Tim and Steve. Now we're going to have Irina review the Q&A section. So Irina, take it away.
Hi, everybody. So obviously people have been submitting questions all over the place, including chat. So it may take a little longer, but I'm trying to combine them in my head. And I think the first question, a couple of those questions refer to, specific projects and not the joint venture. I think we will address some of those because they're pressing, but most of the questions, just so we give priority to the question that talks about the joint venture and the new acquisitions, because that's the purpose of today's webinar. And I think, one of the questions that we should start with, even though you touched upon it, is how do you determine, it's a 50-50 joint venture, I think we made it clear, but how do you determine what goes into, for Benton, for Sokoman, how would you divide work? How would you divide rewards as well?
You want me to take that, Tim?
Sure.
Well, Tim and I have, again, worked together in the past. we know each other extremely well. We've got a great, honest relationship. We'll form our little committee inside the two companies. We'll form budgets for each project, and we'll execute. Basically, personnel is really tough to get these days. So we'll use personnel wherever we can fit people in, including myself and Tim and any other prospectors we can spare and not take off, like Tim's project Moosehead, for instance. So we'll work this out. It's a 50-50. If one becomes more of a dominant operator, we'll probably charge a little management fee for whichever side, but ultimately, we'll have a management committee for creating a budget and stick to the budget.
Great. A lot of the people are asking about the timeline as to the new acquisitions, whether you will do any field work or drilling this summer or by the end of the year. And especially there's several questions with focus on Keppenkek project. So is there a budget planned for, Keppenkek and Golden Hope and Grey River? And if so, when do you expect to start drilling?
Want me to answer that, Tim?
Well, you can take the Keppenkek. You're more familiar with that than me. I can speak to, I guess, any other generalities that are associated with that question.
Sure. So Keppenkek, obviously, we're going to be flying an airborne. As Tim mentioned, when you stake a claim in Newfoundland, you put down a security deposit of $50. So out of that $300,000 we spent, we're going to get almost 90% of that money back once we file assessment work. So the cost of the claims are really only $15 a claim once we do the work. So that's a great thing about the Newfoundland government system. So ultimately, we'll fly an airborne. Then we'll start prospecting, and of course, these things are all going to be results driven. We have a discovery. We'll trench and then probably drill or do some geophysics, ground geophysics. We'll do, probably recce soil geochemistry and or till sampling, infill stuff from the government and assessment files and so forth. So this is just a work in progress. It's, again, large projects. So we definitely will need the time to sort it out. But we've done this before. We know what we're doing.
Okay. That's about Keppenkek, but so I guess no exact timeline as to the other projects, right?
Well, they should all start. I think Steve is in the process of getting quotes for airborne. So all three projects will probably be linked in the one survey just to cut MOB and DMOB costs and get them all done fairly quickly. And the compilations have started. I know I've started picking at some files, and obviously some of the information that was presented today was just a few days poking through the assessment files and finding, like I said, greater than 5,000 ppb gold in stream sediments at Golden Hope. That's just a kilometer or so off of the paved Burgeo Highway. I noticed one question that sort of popped up about infrastructure, and Golden Hope is cut right through the middle with the paved Burgeo Highway, and at the northeast end, it's accessible via roads that come in from the north side, servicing hydro dams up there. And Grey River would be. It's smack dab in the middle of the south coast of Newfoundland, and there's two ways to get there: by boat or by air. But you know what? It's not in the middle of nowhere where you only have one choice. You can always move across the water even when it's foggy. But there's no mining infrastructure there. But anytime you've got coastal access like that, ice free. This is a part of Newfoundland that doesn't freeze in the wintertime. So you get winter, but you don't get ice. It's infrastructure is somewhat of a challenge in some of the more extreme portions of a couple of these properties, but we can certainly get to them.
Okay, that's good. That was actually my next question, but you already saw it about infrastructure. So I guess I'll ask you this question. That's a question for Tim. I'm not sure who thinks that we've been sending mixed messages. I don't agree with this, but just once again, can you please repeat what flagship project is for Sokoman and what will be the focus of Sokoman moving forward? Don't you think that Sokoman is overextending itself, perhaps?
No, not really. Like I said, we have 37,000 meters left in our Phase 6 program. We're about a third of the way through that. A quarter of the way through the entire 50,000 meter program. So we've budgeted another 6 million, because COVID costs are starting to creep up a little bit. Not so much in direct costs on the project, but like parts for drills and things like that, have gone up, and meterage rates are starting to creep up a little bit as well. So again, the remainder of the current proposed program at Moosehead should cost somewhere between 6 and 7 million, and with $1 million in expenditures kind of earmarked for all of our other projects. That brings us again, to 7.5, 8.5 million. So again, with over 2 million left after that, we're not going to run the tank dry. And yes, Moosehead will still be our most important project. Clearly, I mean, the three new additions are they're early stage. So, I mean, they can't even be put in the same real category as Moosehead, although with a quick discovery that could change, which would be good. Not good in terms of switching focus, but, good in terms of, our work, our planning, picking these projects, is going to start bearing some fruit. But Moosehead will still be our number one project.
Great. There's a lot of questions. I think let's talk about your individual projects just a tiny bit, because the question, I think, we have questions for both. And, Steve can start. You have pending essays, I believe Sokoman has on Moosehead and Benton has on Far Lake, right? So why don't you talk about the timeline a little bit as to whether, when do you expect those pending essay results to be out in the market? Steve, why don't you start?
Yeah, no problem. Well, we drilled almost 4,000 meters, and this type of system that we're in, porphyry systems, we had to submit, almost top to bottom of a lot of these holes. We're looking also for like uranium and trace elements, rare earth metals. So these things are not easy to detect. So it's taken some time for the lab to get us, these massive amount of results. But I believe we should have, enough data by the end of next week to release results. And then we'll just go from there. And it's ongoing, because now we have a soil sampling crew out there taking several thousand more soil samples down southwest of the structure towards the greenstone, where there's some conductors that we find very interesting, and to the northeast, and also prospectors and geologists continuing to map these structures in detail. So those results will be ongoing as well, but we're hoping to have something by the end of next week.
Tim?
And as for Moosehead, well, we have currently, and I did this right up until the last minute prior to coming on air. Since our last news release with assays, which was, I think, about a week or so ago, we still have 14 holes that have only partial results reporting. We have 2 holes as well, 2 additional holes that have no results yet. And since the last press release, we've completed about a dozen more holes that are currently being logged and marked for sampling that, of course, aren't in the system yet. So we have basically parts or full holes totaling 30 that we have pending results for. Now, some of them are longer ways out than others, but, we could be in a position to put out some of those holes that have partial results outstanding in a couple of weeks. It's still very busy here, and it's only getting busier. And of course, to give an exact date or exact time is very hard to do. With everybody now doing the same thing, a rush assay basically means nothing now because everybody's rushing assays. So basically, it's just back to first come, first serve again. So whoever gets into the parking lot first, I guess. So anyway. So that's the situation with our results. We have so prior to May 18th, those holes have 14 that are partially back, 2 that have no assays back, and we have about a dozen post our last assay results that are just in the system now. So they're not in the lab system. They're being logged and marked as we speak. So that's it.
And you are drilling now, right? Phase 6 has resumed. And how many drill rigs do you have operating now?
Yes, and just so there's no secrets here, we did lose a few days recently due to a COVID scare in central Newfoundland. We, in fact, had our rig shut for a couple of days. They're back drilling again as of yesterday. And those 2 rigs are basically focusing. One rig is focusing on the South Pond target area. And another rig will be focusing on there was a couple of ground-based holes that we were able to effectively test in the footwall splay area that have just finished. And the drill is now going to move around to focus on that large group of proposed holes on the other side, the east side of North Pond, testing some of the deeper and extending some of the deeper intersections that we've previously reported. Now, the barge is still a work in progress. I hear today that the company has a line on possibly 2 barges. They don't have them physically yet, but they'll have to be fitted, and then, of course, the rig put on them. And then, of course, we have to get that program permitted. But we expect that rig. We don't expect it much before August. So, but the beauty, of course, of the barge is that rather than being restricted to a very sensitive ice-based window, which sometimes you only get a few weeks, and winters aren't what they used to be in Newfoundland anymore, we'll at least be able to drill for a few months, from a barge, and get a heck of a lot more done with a barge than waiting for ice, which we may never get again.
Okay. Coming back to your new acquisitions, is there any funding coming from the Newfoundland government, for these projects, any additional funding?
Tim,
yes. Well, sorry, I'll take that, Steve. Yes. Well, the government, even in these trying times, I mean, they know how important this industry is. In fact, we're an essential industry, which is why we're still able to work as, almost as if things were normal. But, the government here is very pro-mining. In fact, in their recent policy statement, I think they wanted 5 new mines before 2025 or 2026 or something like that. So they're committed. But yes, with respect to funding, because there's so many players now, the pot of money that they had available is kind of getting spread a little bit thin. And so your return will be, not 50% of your expenditures. It's capped at, I think, 150,000. But, no one's getting 150,000 now simply because there's just so many projects, which I don't have a problem with. It's a good thing, even to get $50,000 or $75,000 back, that pays for a heck of a lot of assays, right? Or a new piece of equipment or something like that. So, and of course, I know we do, and I'm sure everybody else that gets these grants, they put that money right back in the ground. So it's reinvested immediately, and we are appreciative of what we are getting at these times. It's very challenging times.
Okay, I think you touched upon this, but maybe just in case, I'll ask this about joint venture properties. Assuming everything goes well right now, right? Everything goes well. Will there be drill results by the end of this year on any of these new acquisitions? Steve?
Yeah. Again, this is all going to be results driven. Results and or special targets, maybe could be magnetic structural targets with soil geochem that we don't have bedrock or explanations to describe what's happening. Again, all results driven, all target driven in these areas. I'm completely confident that we will find something in this joint venture. There's rarely a time that we've gone into projects and not find something of significance, especially in such excellent structural trends that host major deposits. It's almost to us, it was a no-brainer. I mean, we talked about this, Tim and I, and you joke about it with other colleagues in the industry. Newfoundland is kind of like going to Timmins in 1918 before all the big mines were found. It's just that that much potential, and the fact that exploration really didn't start there till the 1980s when the government finally freed up land from Crown for exploration. So it's the potential on the island has been astronomical. We knew that from day one. I was there early, and in fact, I was there a little bit too early because we did own the Cape Ray gold mine in Benton, and we sold it to Matador Mining. We owned the Hope Brook gold mine. We had our hands on a lot of these great projects, but timing was wrong, unfortunately, and you just couldn't hang on. So I believe now timing is right, and we're going to go in and have some fun and find something.
I have an interesting question here, actually, and I think it's an important question to ask. So Eric Sprott is obviously the largest shareholder of Sokoman to date. It has been approved. I believe he owns about 20%. And he just entered basically, Benton stock, right? It did a financing, $2 million financing. And we have a question that says, do you know if Eric Sprott likes the deal?
Well, it's probably no secret that, I have had a chat or two with Mr. Sprott over the past little while, dating back to 2018. And yes, he was very supportive of, he thinks very highly of Newfoundland, and he's publicly stated so, and thinks, there can't be enough money spent here. And, we agree with him. And, we, at Sokoman in particular, I know it was a criticism of us for quite some time, that, well, you're 98 claims, what else do you have? You have 98 claims, but, we have a great project on those 98 claims. You don't need 98 claims to hold a very robust gold deposit. Just look at the Golden Mile in Kirkland Lake. It's called the Golden Mile because it's 1,600 meters long. Moosehead is almost 9 kilometers long. So anyway, just a point. But no, we have chatted about expanding Moosehead. Obviously, he's a very important person to Sokoman as our largest shareholder, and continues to support us in the market. He was very encouraging as to what we were planning, and he didn't know what we were going to do. But I said, Steve and I are looking at a few things, and he said, have at her. So we did.
That's great, Steve. And the money raised, including that includes Eric Sprott. What will it be spent on?
About 90% of the money will be spent on Newfoundland exploration. We do have some work here in Ontario that we are doing, but we really took that money for Newfoundland exploration and drilling. So we've got a lot of equities in our portfolio that Benton can capitalize on at any point in time. I believe that our equity position in clean air metals will be worth far more than what it currently is today in the future. I think Benton's in a good financial position moving forward. I was really happy to welcome Eric as obviously a Benton shareholder. He's been, the fact that he loves Newfoundland, and I want to be a part of the guys that go and show them that there is more to find, and make that point proven.
Great. And I think I'll actually take the last question, because there's been a flood of questions about market exposure and marketing, and doing more. And also a question about, do you intend both companies to join the Newfoundland Gold Alliance in the future? And to those asking, the answer is yes. And we've already replied on social media because there were a lot of questions about it. It was a strategic decision. We have reviewed the initiative and decided that it would be better, to do it later on, because we expected more news to come. And we also knew that the alliance was just formed. Obviously, maybe some people don't know, but there is a cost associated with joining the alliance. And both companies, Benton and Sokoman, have always, been proud of spending money wisely. There are other companies out there who, just spare way more towards, promotion and marketing budget without looking at the analytics and reporting. And we do that for both companies. We search for good opportunities out there, and not just because of the name, but because of the reporting that exists. When the alliance was created, we didn't feel like it was the right time to get into this alliance, but that's something that we communicated to that group and said that moving forward, likely closer to the fall, we will recommend, both Sokoman and now Benton to join that alliance as well. And in terms of exposure, there is a lot more coming, and both companies are well financed to be doing that. There were just specific things that needed to take place, and there will be more webinars, there will be articles, there will be interviews coming up for both companies. And, if you follow them on social media, or if you have joined their private lists, you would know of everything that's happening. There's a lot more questions. So, if you want your questions answered, you can send those directly to us, to CHF, and we will answer them, and together with the management. And for now, because we're running out of time, I think I'll thank our presenters, and we'll pass it on to Kathy for closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your questions from the audience. They were very interesting. And thanks everybody for participating. This is such an exciting time for Benton and Sokoman. We're so thrilled to have you part of our story and investing alongside us. And we wish both Tim and Steve just a tremendous summer. And I'm sure we'll be doing this again before the end of the summer. So stay well, take care, and thanks for joining us today. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.